Would there be anything you would correlate to leadership today that you feel like would have some of that prepared you, right, to kind of go through that journey some?
100%. And I always pull it in. And it's interesting because we never know how our past is going to affect our future, right? In the time we can't see the future, so we don't know. But today I do a lot of public speaking. It's one of the main parts of the company and with the team. And so being on stage is very comfortable for me now, right? To be able to talk with you and to get a message across effectively. Yeah. But the skills that I would say it's cultivated the most for me is that emotional intelligence, because as a performer, you have to be able to connect emotionally to get the song across or to get the music across, especially when you're in countries where they don't speak your language, right? They don't know maybe the English words that I'm saying, but all they can see is my nonverbal communication and maybe the emotion that I'm evoking. But the second thing is that social awareness, right? So being on stage in a room of 1,000 people and then feeling that, this isn't working, so I need to adjust as a performer in the moment, on the spot. And leaders have to have that all the time, right? We have to be able to feel our team, see the energy in our team, recognize that this strategy is not working right now with them, or this team member I can feel looks a little bit under, and now how do I adjust and support them?
As you look at leaders today, I'm curious, do you see during this time of quarantine, what's really separating the leaders that have high EQ from those maybe that you can pick up very quickly that's not a strength for them? What are you seeing that separates them today?
I think it is the EQ, because part of emotional intelligence is self-management and being able to adapt. Yeah. And we have to remember that leaders are also people, right? And so leaders also feel, they also have stress, they also have challenges that are in their life. And great leaders are the ones that kind of have a little bit more of a grasp on that, right? Yeah. So they can manage their stress a little bit more. They're able to adapt, and they're instantly problem solvers. So if something's happening in their life, they can make a shift, they can give you strategy, and they can really put that ego aside and not let it interfere with having to lead. And I think that this is what we're seeing today, is that a lot of leaders today right now are also in the same environment of stress and uncertainty and what's going on. Yeah. And the ones that are able to lead the team effectively are the ones that are able to adapt, manage their stress, control their emotions, build that self-awareness so that they can be there for their team and manage their team effectively.
At that point in your career, when you were an executive, did you kind of lay out a strategy to say, hey, I think I'm warm and fuzzy, like I want to invite people in, but clearly there's this gap I always talk about, is the way people perceive and then where we actually are. Did you have anything that worked for you that you were able to say, okay, now I'm aware of this. How do I move into this space of, as a leader, we do need to be someone that's approachable?
Yeah. And that's a great question. And I think it comes down to communication too, right? And really understanding that, okay, this is a challenge. Now I need to actively work on it. Yeah. So we don't see the challenge and then say, cool, I'll work on it. No, now I need to actively take steps to work on it. And so one of the things that I did was just call it out. Call out the pink elephant in the room and say, hey, I got all those surveys. Thank you so much. You know, I noticed that one of the key factors is that maybe I could come across intimidating. And as a leader, I'm going to work on that. Okay. And really and we're afraid to do that sometimes as leaders, is be vulnerable. But again, it's all about humanity and people.
And what's always been interesting to me is you can go back to really like retention. You can go back to how many people get promoted. Is there diversity in the leadership in the team? And what would be things you would say to look at to know that your company and your culture is really focused on that growth minded, as you said, and open to ideas? Like, how can they be aware of that to know versus just saying it, you know?
Yeah. I think that the first thing to look at is just the data. And so I'm all about data, connected with the soft skills, right? Because it's see, but it's like, let's look at the employee turnover rate, right? Let's look at how often your employees are engaged. These things are really, really key. If you have a high employee turnover rate, then we need to take a step back and ask ourselves why, right? Or if we have employees that are coming to work that are just doing like the basic and the standard of coming in, I'm doing my thing, why? There's a lack of engagement there. And so these are the first two things to take a look at. And that's why I always encourage like doing surveys. So doing an anonymous survey before they enter the company, while they're in the company, and most importantly, when they exit the company, because you want to understand, why is an employee leaving, right? Is it the leadership, the culture, or are we not giving them the opportunity to grow? But this is really the most essential part, is really looking at your team members and taking a step back, because it is possible to get your product out there and be successful financially as a company, right?
Yeah.
But it's not going to be sustainable if we don't do that work with the people. And I think that that's unfortunately what people are seeing right now, is that we're in this pandemic and this crisis, and a lot of companies that have been able to rely on just their product, right?
Yeah.
They're not doing so well right now because their people haven't been cultivated and that culture hasn't been. What we're seeing now is strong teams that have strong culture that are all working together, and they're like, let's adapt, let's put out a new product that's good for today. Let's make that shift. And I think it's really clear right now, like how company culture is so important and effective in order to adapt in moments like this that are crisis driven, that our product has to change and shift, and it's going to rely on people in order to make that happen.